We have really good athletes who can get on the end of a ball and just run with it, making sure that back line and even that sixth role, the goalkeeper, they're all on the same page at the same time.
This young player can do this once, in my eyes, then you have the athleticism and the ability that you need to train, that you can do it all the time.
It's a huge opportunity to come off the bench, especially in week 2, because players are going to get hurt, players are going to get traded, and you don't know when you're going to have your Brock Purdy moment. But you got to train, right, Scotty? You got to train for those moments.
Shouldn't be surprised that you
never
can do that,
mess it up.
You can do it again. You can do it again.
Welcome back into Straight from the Pitch. I'm Anna Weddy, joined as always by my co-host, Scotty Schweitzer. Scotty, week 2, some good soccer, maybe not some great soccer, what we may have expected because, it's just week 2. People are starting to understand each other, play with each other for the first time in some instances. For you, the goalkeeping stood out. For me, the lack of good defense stood out. Let's start on a positive note. Why was the goalkeeping so strong?
Oh, for one, I think it had to be. You touched on it. The defense was not great, but some of the goalkeeping, Johnson was amazing. I thought the kid out of Colorado was incredible. I mean, he had some probably 6 or 7 saves that he had no right making. And I just thought the goalkeeping, we're known for our goalkeeping in the U.S., and it showed up this weekend, and it was fun to watch. If you're a fan of goalkeeping, they looked really good. There was a lot of shot stopping abilities, but also reading of the game and taking up crosses. I thought the goalkeeping was really, really phenomenal this weekend across the board.
The defense is the reason why there was really good goalkeeping. The biggest thing that stood out for me was Charlotte's first goal. They had the first goal over St. Louis this weekend. And the attacker who scored that goal for Charlotte was literally standing in between the 2 center backs. Where is that communication to pass off that player, rather move in, or the near side center back slides backwards? I don't know. If you were the coach of these teams, it's week 2, so there is a little bit of, we'll give them that because it is such a long season. How do you shore things up on these back lines or as a team as a whole?
Well, one is you got to have a lot more communication, I feel. We can't really hear the game that well when we're watching, but you can usually tell if you watch a Man City or something that Ruben Diaz or Van Dijk, you can kind of see it in their actions. They are organizing not just their back line, but the midfielders in front of them. And I think that's one of the things we saw this weekend is there is a lack of communication and a lack of understanding in each role that each player needs to be playing during a game against the opponent that they're playing against. I think it was the Columbus Crew that they worked specifically all week on transition defense. And that's one of the things that we need to do better here in the MLS is we're pretty good on the transition going forward, but on the transition getting back when we lose the ball, man, it's almost like every man for himself, and we don't get organized and link into our connections with our players around us. And I think that's what we're seeing. A lot of goals are coming in the run of play, but in the run of play because of mistakes, not in the run of play that teams are breaking them down. There are a few of those goals. I think LAFC, they can break you down pretty easily. And Miami looked real good at breaking Philadelphia down, although in the first half, Miami did press real hard. I think they took a little book out of Columbus, but then Philadelphia switched it up last week against Columbus and changed the way they played in the second half. But Miami in the first half, they pressed Philadelphia, which gave them trouble and allowed them to get on the attack.
Right, before we get into Inter Miami and Philly, because that to me was the biggest game, you mentioned the transition defense, and playing soccer here in the States, that's a huge part of the game, both on the women's and men's side. So if you're a coach, I think implementing the fundamentals of defense is important. You've mentioned it before, but especially here stateside, because the game is so transitional, we have really good athletes who can get on the end of a ball and just run with it, making sure that back line and even that sixth role, the goalkeeper, they're all on the same page at the same time, because here balls just go over the top. Attackers are able to run onto it, and boom, it's an easy goal. So that's something that definitely going to keep our eyes on. How are the defenses across the entire league going to get better as the season goes on? Let's head into the Inter Miami Philly game. Robert Taylor with an instant impact goal in the 76th minute, second goal for Inter Miami of the game. Philly's XG came really just from one opportunity. A lot of people are talking about Philly being a team that can win MLS this season. Why did Inter Miami have so much success against the Union?
Well, I think that Philadelphia is a good team. I don't think we should just from this one loss say, "Oof, Philadelphia is not as good as we thought." I think they are, but they are a team that is very much set in their ways, and they have a lot of players that are very good, but they also have role players that fit their role really well. Miami, I think we're looking at a coach who really does understand the game, and we've touched on it a little bit. But Phil Neville, you can see this team in Miami is transitioning into a well-rounded soccer team. In the first half, they attacked defensively and they pressed high on Philadelphia, which gave Philadelphia trouble, and they weren't able to get into their rhythm of the game. And Miami looked phenomenal in the second half. Playing down in Miami, being a player that played down in Miami, you have to take halves as they come because of the heat, because of the humidity, the way it affects your body. And you can see Miami started to sit a little bit, and then Philadelphia got a little bit of a run of the game. Then Neville, and the good thing about Miami is right now their bench is doing their job. If he puts a player in, Lassiter came in, did a good job. Like you said, the boy who scored, he came in, Taylor, did a great job for him, got the goal. And then they started to press a little bit more. But Miami does have some very highly intelligent soccer players. And going back on the defense that we talked about, when I came back from Europe playing in France, people asked me, what's the difference between the American game and the French game or the European game? And I said, the biggest difference for me was when we left the locker room to go out onto the field to play the game. The last comments from our coaching staff was, make sure our defense is set, this, that, how we're going to defend, how we're not going to give up a goal. When you play here in America, we're always talking offense. It's always about offense. It's just the way we are. We like three-pointers. We like touchdowns. We like home runs. We like home runs so much that we've sacrificed and everybody strikes out, and our batting averages are 134. But that's just the way we are in America. We want goals, 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 and a lot of times at the cost of giving up goals because our defense is so lacking. Where when you look at Miami, they were very compressed, they were very compact, they knew what their roles were, and they almost looked like a team that when they lost it had areas to get to first. And then once they got into their areas, okay, who am I matched up with on my team who's supposed to be there? And then who am I matched up on with Philadelphia? And what are their strengths and weaknesses? And then it allowed them to play a better brand of defense, I thought. But I would say LAFC and Miami do look like a little bit more classy of teams than the rest of the league right now.
With Miami's high press, it also allows for the defense to have a little bit more time to talk to one another, to organize, be set, so that when they do win the ball, they can help in the attack. Or if the Union win the ball, they kick it out, they're ready to pull it back down. It's like I like to compare the high press in soccer to a power play in hockey, because when you watch a power play in hockey, they are all on top of that one goal. Yes, there's a man down, but they are just in there trying to get shots, trying to get opportunities, and it's a more well thought out power play in soccer. So I think a tactic like that, especially here in the States where the lack of foot skills is a little bit behind maybe some of what we see in different countries, you can take advantage of those missteps, bad touches. We saw it in the Charlotte St. Louis game, really bad passes, mistakes that happen, but you can capitalize because you're right on top of it.
Yeah, and also when they high press Miami, they do have some technically sound and confident players, but they're
Mhm.
so close to each other because of how tight they were pressing defensively. They get out of pressure real easy with their style of play, which is they do have some Latin players, some Mexican players that like to play that ticky tack and get out. But because they're so tight defensively, they have more options and are able to get out also.
You mentioned just the knowledge of players around one another. And in soccer and football, you need to know your routes. You have to understand your quarterback to progressively get better as the season goes on. But in soccer, too, it does take a little bit of time to get used to the players playing next to you, understand when someone's going to release a ball to allow someone to go forward, maybe a player who might just switch the point of attack, just knowing who you're playing with. And week two, maybe you see less of that because they haven't been together forever. So it'll be interesting to see how it continues to play out.
Also on Miami, I thought over the whole weekend, as good as the goalies were, that number 7, Juan, I think his name is Juan Mota
Mhm.
for Miami. I thought
Yes,
he was the best
yes.
player the whole weekend. I thought he was really a big cog in And I'm pretty sure Miami has Gregory playing as their six, and he's their captain. But
Hmm.
this Mota kid it was almost like they were linking off of him. He was setting the press, setting the pressure, setting the tone, and he was real clean with the ball and was able to get out of pressure real easy, which then gave Miami a chance to kind of take a breath when they needed to, which I thought he was really good. Also on that goal, and here's
Yeah.
my problem with U.S. soccer. This is my huge problem with U.S. soccer. This player comes in, Robert Taylor, unbelievable. What a goal. Goal of the year up candidate in the second week. So we're lucky with that.
Whoa.
But if this young player can do this
Mhm.
once, in my eyes, then you have the athleticism and the ability that you need to train that you can do it all the time. I think too many players in the US train until they can do something, whereas great superstars train until they can't get it wrong. And that's a different thing we have to teach our young players. Don't train until you can do it. Train until you can't mess up at it. That's the difference between good and great. That shot off his chest, take it down, change his footwork, hit a full volley upper 90. I mean, if you can do that once, then son, you need to keep doing that and get on the field more often. And that's another thing is this time of year, these players that are coming off the bench need to know this is a huge opportunity for them. Some of the players, you got different coaches, different lineups, a whole bunch of different lineups this week. So some of the players, I thought some of your designated players didn't play so well. You get in this game, Lassiter's doing his job, Taylor's doing his job. Now this is making tough decisions on coaches, which to be honest, every coach wants. We want to have tough decisions of who we're going to play, what lineup we're going to play, how are we going to attack, and what are we looking for out of these players that we have. And we have that competition in training is going to make that team so much better.
You mentioned it. It's a huge opportunity to come off the bench, especially in week 2, because players are going to get hurt, players are going to get traded, and you don't know when you're going to have your Brock Purdy moment and take your team to the Final Four, the NFC Championship, and Purdy's moment. So, yes, I think those opportunities, those chances to step on the field is your time to shine. It is so hard to come off a bench and just play 45 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever a team is asking you to do, but you have to train to be able to do those things. Have the mindset, watch the entire game, understand where when a coach puts you on the field, where you can be your best and where you can help the team on the pitch. I think coming onto the field, especially this early on in the season, those are the type of players that I'm watching for to make big impact moments. And Robert Taylor, that wasn't a lack of defense. That was a great goal.
No,
For
no,
those
that
who
was
don't know,
class.
yeah, class. Those who don't know what we're talking about, Inter Miami Union, the second goal in the 76th minute. You have to go back. MLS has it up on their website. Watch that goal. It was beautiful. The celebration, lackluster, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think he surprised himself.
Likely. Honestly, you're probably right. That's funny. But you
Yeah,
got to train, right, Scotty? You got to
that's
train for
right.
those
You shouldn't be
moments.
surprised that if you can do
Never
that,
mess
man,
it
you can
up.
do it again. You can do it again.
MLS is partnering with the team behind Drive to Survive. It was reported this weekend. MLS has partnered with the British production group Box to Box to produce content and maybe a documentary covering MLS. Drive to Survive is on Netflix. We've seen other documentaries be really successful for the game of soccer. Welcome to Wrexham. Ryan Reynolds' team, PGA Tour players have had documentaries made about them. How do you think this could either help or maybe not help MLS with a documentary and more content coming from a well-known production?
I think it can only help, to be honest. I'm a big believer or non-believer in single entity, which is the MLS, and I understood why it was put into play and why they did it, and why it's to help the league to sustain and keep going and growing. And I understand that, but it also, as we can see from this year, man, you really got to study to even know your own home team because there's so many changes with single entity in the league owning the players. Players are moved where they need to be moved to for what's best for the whole league. And I think that's hard on fans because you don't get to know your players. You don't get to have an intimacy with your players that you want to cheer for them. And I think this will really help. I watched a whole bunch of games this week in the EPL and everything. This weekend was Man U, Liverpool. Everyone knows I'm a huge Liverpool fan, but just the atmosphere, the passion inside the stands, the disgust on the Man U fans leaving early from the game, the enjoyment and just ecstasy from these players, from these Liverpool fans. I think this will be something where you can see inside the locker room. You can see the day to day. Hopefully, I know there was a documentary on Liverpool a few years ago. The Man
Mhm.
City documentary is like people that weren't even City fans now are City fans, just because you get to see the day to day operations and how the players interact and how they interact with staff and how they interact with ownership. For me, single entity, and I don't think all the owners do it, but it gives the owners an out of they don't have to say you want to play for us because we're the best club, we take care of our players the best, because that's not necessarily how it's run. Where it is, and I'm a Knicks fan, and for the longest time nobody wanted to come to New York. Like, what, New York City? But the way the organization was run, no one wanted to play there. It had nothing to do with anything else. It's great media. It's a great city. There's so much to do, and nobody wanted to be there because of the way the organization was run. So this documentary, hopefully, one, gives the fans a look inside, and two, gives us the fans as, man, I don't want to play for Kansas City. I want to play in St. Louis. This lady is taking care of everybody, the fans, block party. I mean, the atmosphere was amazing in St. Louis again. Hopefully now they just start playing a little better. I know they have 2 wins and it looks real good, but I think the box to box partnership is going to be something that's going to be really good for the fans and really good for the players, hopefully.
Content is really hard to make up. And right now, these teams are tasked with having to put together the content for the new Apple deal, putting content up about each individual team. I apologize for the lawnmower if you can hear that in the background. But to continue my thought, I just think more content that goes up that these teams can view
Anna's at
or
a soccer
listen
field. We're
to.
just getting the pitch real nice and short, the grass. So she got practice later.
We got to wrap this up soon. I gotta have to paint the lines. That's how I get paid for this. So, yeah, but I just think more content. I know how hard it is to produce content. In my previous life, I'm a video editor. I put together content for NBC Sports Washington, and it's a lot of time. And I think if you can get a high level production to come in and help these players and these teams and these organizations look good, they have the money to order the cameras, the audio. We could do more mic'd up stuff to get to know these players, their families, etc. It'll only grow the league. You see how things become sensationalized. I will say, like the Alec Murdaugh. Have you watched the Alec Murdaugh
Only
documentary?
because it's so close to us here in Raleigh. I watch the news and it's on.
Yes.
It's on.
It's crazy. And this story is something that I've followed since 2019, way before all of this stuff happened, because it is so close to home. I never thought that it would be huge national news, but everyone knows about it because of Netflix and people are
Yes.
interested in it. It's a crazy story. People here love sports, they love soccer. A documentary like this and just content like this can only benefit this league and soccer in the States as a whole. Do it your own way. Why not? Try something different. You never know what's going to stick. A lot of people are investing in MLS teams, NWSL teams, players of different teams. We have Patrick Mahomes has invested in KC Current. He's invested in Sporting KC. We had Giannis from Milwaukee Bucks invest in Nashville last week. We have Will Ferrell from Elf and Kicking and Screaming investing in LAFC down in LA, and he's kind of moved into the Premier League game as well, has been really into soccer. Scotty, we'll start with you. If you owned one of these MLS or NWSL teams, who would be someone you would bring in as a investor to help build your brand?
Well, I'm a big Will Ferrell fan, and he's already taken. So
I
I think I
know,
would have
I
to
same thing.
go with I would go with Adam Sandler. Just something about the guy. He seems down to earth. He's into sports. He's done some great sports movie. I love his comedy.
Mhm.
He's just a person to me that seems he would be in it for all the right reasons, not just to get his name and his brand out there, but more to help young people, young players, young aspiring professionals to become better at what they're trying to become better at. So
Which
Adam
one
Sandler
is
would be the guy.
what's your favorite Adam Sandler movie and why?
Who, Adam Sandler movie favorite one? I mean, I don't know. I'm a big, me and my wife probably have every single one. I think I like 50 First Dates. I'm a big Drew
Oh,
Barrymore
that's
fan
great.
too. But every Sandler movie to me is hilarious. From the beginning to when he gets a little bit more serious. I haven't seen Hustle, and I've been told to watch that. I heard that's really good. His
I haven't
newest one.
seen that. Okay, I'll have
He's a
to add it to the list.
basketball. It's about NBA, I think.
And he's been around for a long time, so everybody knows who he is. He's been in some of the top movies. He can bring in those fans into your team, so that's a good one. I like that. I went with Hailey Bieber. She is the it girl of the century right now. And a lot of Gen Z girls aren't fans of MLS or maybe even NWSL unless they play the sport. Bringing in a Hailey Bieber, the way that she is talked about on TikTok because of her arguments with Selena Gomez right now, we don't have to get into that topic, but it's headlines everywhere. She released a skincare line, Rhode, and it sold out in the first day. She is a top of everything. She could help design fan gear, team apparel. She is a kind of the it girl when it comes to fashion right now. So I think she could help the team on that side of things. Bring in fans. And lastly, she's married to Justin Bieber, my childhood crush. So he could perform at halftime every single game. I think that would be the top of the list of things she would have to bring to the table. So Hailey Bieber's my girl.
I like
What do
it.
you think? You like it?
I like it. I think it'll be good. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
think
think
it'll
it'll
be
be really
good
good.
too. We'll get that going next year. NWSL, they have signed the youngest player in 15-year-old midfielder Chloe Ricketts to a 3-year contract with an option in 2026 to the Washington Spirit. She is followed by Olivia Moultrie, who was 3 days older than her when she signed her deal with the Portland Thorns back in 2021. Another thing they have in common, Mark Parsons was the head coach of both the Thorns when Olivia was there, and now the Spirit when Chloe is there. You're a youth coach, Scotty. If your daughter Emmy or you were 15 years old or you were coaching a young girl who you saw a lot of potential in, would you encourage them to join the NWSL at the ripe age of 15 before they can drive a car? Or would you encourage them to go the college soccer route?
Uh, I think every case, every scenario would be a little bit different. I would have to say everything I would do is every player has their own journey of how they go and how it becomes their game and where they end up. So for me, it would really be like who is going to be attached with this player to benefit her growth as a human being. And that would be the number one thing that I would have to be concerned about. Um, if it was 2 years ago, Washington Spirit, then no, no, thank you. I don't want to sign. But with Parsons being the coach, and he's already done it once with Moultrie, who seems to be coming along quite nicely, is from all accounts is a good human being. She's not getting in trouble. She's not doing crazy stuff. This is, but if you're a young player, and this is where we are now in the game, 15-year-olds are getting signed, and they're getting signed and giving chances to play. And I think that's the other thing is he's bringing her in knowing that she's going to take a roster spot. And because of that, she needs to be given a chance to play. And I think he did it with Olivia, and I think he'll do it again with Chloe. And I think it's going to be a good thing for her. But again, it would have to be where are we at? I think when I read her article, she didn't just think that it was going to be with Mark Parsons, but the medical and strength team that she was going to be a part of. So, and mental health team. So I think that's actually a really good sign that they understand they have a 15-year-old that is going to be taken away from her everyday 15-year-old life. And they're going to have to help her navigate how to go through it. Hopefully at the end of the day, it makes her an even stronger, better human being, soccer or not soccer included.
There's negatives and positives in my view to signing a player this young, especially at 15. It's physically, you don't really finish developing, I think, until you're 17 or 18. I like that she is going to be working with some of the top strength coaches with everything that's happened with the Spirit in the past. I know that they've made leaps and bounds to improve who and what is surrounding the players in that club. So specifically Ricketts going to that club, I think is huge. But I think from a negative standpoint, she doesn't get to experience that genuine college experience of going to class, having to make sure you get enough rest to train well, to make sure you take your test and perform well in the classroom. Also, the friendships that you make at college. I don't know about you, Scotty, but some of my best friends I made at Penn State. And I was at a Penn State soccer wedding this weekend and just reliving those memories and joking about how those are some of the best times in our lives. Something that Ricketts won't be able to experience because her teammates are at the minimum 5 years older than her and completely different seasons of life. So just the education standpoint and the life experience standpoint, she won't experience going into the NWSL. Obviously, she knows that. That's very apparent, and she wants to play at the highest level. So going forward, I think is a huge positive. I also think that from a positive standpoint, Parsons has proven that he likes youth players with Olivia Moultrie. They've given her multiple opportunities to step in and make an impact for the Thorns. With this season being a World Cup year for the women's league or the women's game, there's going to be a lot of players on the Spirit who are leaving: Sanchez, Hatch, Rodman, etc., probably Sullivan as well. So she's going to have an opportunity to step on the field, play in some big games at that time if they don't play her from the top. I think there's positives and negatives to a young player stepping in America too. It's not like we're in Europe where it's valued a different way. I think here it's different. It worked for Mallory Swanson. She was able to forgo UCLA and go straight to the league and straight at the professional level. And the league has grown since she was a young girl. So we'll see how it plays out, right? It could be a huge
Yeah, yeah.
success or
I
kind
think
of mayhem.
Parsons is very European in his coaching philosophies, and I think you see that the way he yet lets the young players get in the game, and he does change his lineup a bit, and the way he approaches the game. But I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of life lessons learned. Like she's not even going to get her high school friends her senior year when you're the top dog. So we'll see how it goes. But all the best to her. She's a Michigan girl, and Michigan, it's a tough little state, so I think things will go okay for her. I'm rooting for her.
Same. I'm excited to see how she fits in with this team, and the Spirit as a whole are just a younger team with Rodman, with Sanchez. There's some younger girls in that team. I think personality wise, maybe she'll fit in well because she is still a Gen Z, or is she a different generation? I don't even know what's below Gen
Oh man,
Z.
yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah, so that'll be fun to see. And I also think with Parsons as well, he is big on principles, and we learned that a lot when he was in Portland. So there's going to be serious structure for Chloe as well. There's not going to be kind of questioning where she stands. I think he's going to be very blunt with her and where she needs to continue to develop and what he likes about her game. Last thing, Scotty, how about you explain our new segment? It's called the Yellow Penny Award. How did this
Okay,
originate?
so when I played in Rochester, New York, and I think it only lasted for 2 years because we were highly competitive people, highly competitive players, a really good team, and I think the coach took it away after 2 years. I think he thought there was going to be some locker room skirmishes. There never was one. I mean, there was arguments, but so the yellow penny was given to the worst player at practice that day. So at the end of training, the yellow penny was given to that player. Now that player had to wear the yellow penny the whole next practice, had to be wearing that penny. So like you're doing everything you possibly can not to get the yellow penny. It actually, I thought, ended up being a great thing because we wanted so badly not to be the yellow penny that players tried so hard in training that games were just so easy for us because we weren't super talented. It was probably one of the best teams I've ever played on in the fact that we didn't care how we had to play. We would play any style as long as knew it gave us the best chance to win. We would sit back, we would high press, we would take possession of the ball, we would let the other team have possession of the ball. We would change lineups, we would change formations, whatever needed. No one ever complained. We just wanted to win games and beat everybody. I think we had a chip on our shoulder, but that's where it originated in Rochester. We had a yellow penny. It was the only yellow penny we had in all the penny bags, and we gave it to the worst player of the day, and they had to wear it the whole next day. So you're wearing a yellow penny with a pink penny on top. Yeah, you couldn't take the penny off. You had to wear it the whole time. So that's where it originated, and now we kind of have our segment here that we're going to start this week. So it should be fun to see who's getting those yellow pennies.
Who's getting those yellow pennies? So I'll let you continue. Who was your yellow penny for match week 2?
Okay, so for me, I really wanted to watch that St. Louis game. I really like the way they're going about their business. I don't think they're playing the best brand of soccer. They're playing a brand of soccer that they have to be in games. And I think they got real lucky this week with playing Charlotte because they look like they're let's just play Charlotte and Houston against each other for a while and see if they can get some wins, these two teams, because
Yeah.
Houston's a complete debacle too. I mean, we got a problem down in Houston. They've been trying to change coaches, change GMs, change a whole bunch of different things, and they just can't seem to get it right. I'm cheering for Pi Downstead. Pi Downstead played with me in Rochester. I don't think he ever got the yellow penny. He's a good goalie, so I don't think he ever got it. Let me look at my notes here. My yellow penny goes to number 11 for Charlotte. And I don't think he was by far the worst player of the weekend. But Carol, how do you say his last name? Zwiderski. He is a designated player. He didn't even look interested at the end of that game. I know he gets the whipping ball in for the cross. He obviously can do some good things, but when you have your designated player and he's giving you that kind of an output in the game, that's not going to be good enough. That's a lot of money. That's a key spot, a key position. That as Charlotte's going to go this year, it's going to be those three boys up top, and he's one of them. And he did not, to me, he did not do enough. He did not look to care to do enough, and that was the reason I give him my yellow penny. He just did not even look interested in this game at the end. He just was like, okay, it's St. Louis's game. Let's get on to the next game. And for those reasons, he gets my yellow penny.
Charlotte FC is playing Atlanta United next weekend, rather this weekend on Saturday. Would you bench him and pull somebody else in? Or would you let him one more
I'm a
match?
little nervous because we really were hard on Kip Keller last week, and he didn't even
Yeah.
make the roster this weekend. So
Dang
gotta
it.
be careful. But for me, Charlotte right now, you are in dire terms. I understand it's only the second game of the season. I would definitely bench him. I would definitely put him on the bench. And it really, again, you can see a player's body language tells 1,000 answers. And his body language, I thought, was horrible. You want to see terrible body language? Watch the Liverpool Man U game. I would have took Bruno. Bruno Fernandes asked to be subbed out, and they left him on the field.
Oh my gosh. What would you have done if let's take a left turn here. Let's go to the Premier
Okay.
League because that is your game. Liverpool, Man U. Liverpool gets the win 7-0. What did Liverpool do right that these MLS teams can look at and say, "Hey, let's pull this into our game the next how many weeks?"
Well, they played as a unit. They 100% played as a team and did their jobs. I think part of Liverpool's problem is when you go on such a long winning tradition and streak like we had for the last 4 or 5 years, players start to believe they're the reason that it's happening instead of we're the reason it's happening. You could see that. You could point to Alexander Arnold. Van Dijk just gave a speech this week or an interview this week where he said his body is just giving out on him. He's not injured. He just can't do the things because Klopp plays such a high pressing game. We have some older players, but when it's Man U Liverpool, these are just two iconic clubs, and we showed up and they didn't. And I think part of their problem was they're playing Man U, that is, like they just needed to show up. It is not about just showing up. You got to then put it in and go for it. And you could see by the end of the game, kind of the chippiness that Man U, which I understand it was 7-0, and our fans every time we scored kept yelling, "We want 8" or "We want 6." Every time whenever we scored, they wanted more, which we obliged, which was awesome. But I think they just kind of showed up, and then they got like, "Who do you think you are, scoring 7 goals on us?" Like, we're Liverpool. We're trying to get back into Champions League, and this game and this weekend was huge for us. And being that it was the last game on Sunday, we knew it. Man U knew it. Man U fans knew it. Liverpool's fans knew it. Tottenham's fans knew it. Like, we're back in this thing after being horrible all season long. Like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat things. Liverpool have been horrible. But for this game, we played as a unit, we played as a team, and we played for each other and for the club. And Man U didn't. And it was obvious. It was obvious. And like we say all the time, you have to be honest and truthful. You want to see pundits go after players. Gary Neville and Roy Keane slam Liverpool. And they're ex-Liverpool. Slam Man U. They are ex-Man U players, and they are embarrassed, ashamed for what was happening on the field. And they didn't even get to play in that game.
How did you see the slamming of Man U and holding these players to a standard on these broadcasts? How do fans react to that? I feel like they understand that these players need to kind of be reprimanded, but how do you see the fans react to kind of a
I
slap
would
on the
think the
wrist?
fans will be okay, especially the Man U fans.
Yeah.
You're talking about Roy Keane and Gary Neville. I mean, Gary
I know
Neville
what
was a
you're talking about.
really, really good player. Roy Keane, to me, is one of the most underrated players, I think, in the history of soccer. But these are guys that showed up day in and day out for Man United. They gave everything they had for the crest, for the club. And for them to call out players, I don't think those players have anything to say about that based on the history of the people that are calling them out. And the fans know it. The fans, I read a story last week about John Terry that played for Chelsea. I'm not a John Terry fan. I'm not a Chelsea fan. But his whole family grew up West Ham fans. So he scores a goal against West Ham, and he goes over to taunt the West Ham, and he sees his dad and his uncle flipping him off, yelling at him, cursing at him because they're West Ham fans, and it doesn't even matter that that's their son because he plays for Chelsea. Reminds me when I was a young dad, my daughter who plays soccer said to me, "Dad, what if I go to Carolina?" I said, "Emmy, if you go to UNC, I hope you score 8 goals a game and lose 9-8 every game."
That's amazing. Does she still want to go to Carolina?
No. She
No,
just
no,
likes
no.
she just like to mess with me.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's hilarious. You made a good point though with it has to be a we collective to want to win these games.
100%.
My
And I think
favorite,
that's what's working for St. Louis. They're not playing
sure.
great soccer, but they're playing as a team, they're playing as a we. And I always tell the young kids, the way I explain soccer to the young kids, really young, is if you ever go to a wedding and one person gets out there and does the Macarena or the chicken dance or the electric slide, you're like, look at that crazy person. But when everybody goes out there and does it at the same time, you're like, hey, that's a pretty cool dance. But if one
Yeah.
person's doing it, we got, okay, call the straight jacket on this guy. But if the whole group's doing it, it looks good. And that's the thing about soccer. Even if we maybe have the wrong tactics, but we're all doing it the same, we still got a chance. It's weird. If we got 4 guys doing the right thing and 6 guys doing the wrong thing, I mean, we got no chance. It's a game over. We're going to lose that game.
Soccer is really one of the only sports that you can do that. With basketball, there's set plays. Obviously, with football, there's set plays. Soccer, it's like, let's go out and win. Yes, we have a game plan, but we should just be on the same page. One of my favorite quotes is Tim Tebow. He said, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And that's what you see with some of these games is it's people with just the effort and the willing to work hard and put in the work for 90 minutes beats those talented players every single day.
Yep, I totally agree. But if you get a talented team that works hard, trouble.
You get Liverpool. Let's say that.
On
Yellow.
their good day.
Yeah, on their good day. Yes. Yellow Penny Award for me. I told you before we started recording that it kind of took a not soccer approach because it was huge national news. We touched on it a little bit. My Yellow Penny Award is Alec Murdaugh because I was so invested in that trial last week. And let me tell you, I was at the nail salon and I had that thing on full blast, just listening to the final sentencing. He went to jail for 2 life sentences for murdering his wife and son. That's a Yellow Penny Award. If
Let me tell
I've
you something.
ever,
I really think now we should get him a yellow penny to have to walk around the jail cells with.
I think so too. I think he's going to be punished enough in prison, though. I'm not
Yes.
sure a Yellow
But I
Penny is
think
going
the
to be
yellow
enough.
penny, like why is that guy wearing that yellow penny? He knows why.
He knows why. Scotty and Anna brought it to him, and that's what's important. Yeah, so that's
Ask
my.
Kip Keller.
What'd you
Whatever
say?
you say goes. I said, ask Kip Keller.
Yeah. Bless his heart. That's what we say down here in the South.
Yeah.
All right, Scotty. Well, thank you so much for joining me for another week of MLS, NWSL soccer news. Like always, stay tuned. Definitely reach out to us. Let us know in the comments, DM on Instagram, Twitter. What are some of the things that you want us to break down? What are some big stories that you've seen and you want us to dig a little bit deeper into? We are here to serve you guys, and we want to hear what you guys want to listen to. So as always, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, SFT Pod, and we will see you back here next Wednesday.
Have a great week.